Hey everyone, it's John at National Sports Entertainment, and I wanted to go into what's going to be the new narrative, and this is great because we are ahead of this one. We've been calling this one, and this one is, again, I really want to cover these things as they're covered because they quickly just gloss right over them and move on. So, as you can see, NFL rigged, it's not new, but more and more and more people are talking about it to a point where it has to be addressed now. Now, this is why I honestly, looking back, this is why I think the Bills lost. Because I didn't realize, so I used to talk about in my videos how I feel like Vegas might set what are known as reverse traps or swerves with the intention that, well, people are going to believe this is going to happen and we'll do the opposite. Then I said, well, only about 1% of people are awake, so the NFL wouldn't bother with reverse traps. Well, more than 1% of people are awake. I'd say 5 to 10% of people are convinced it's rigged. And I mean completely rigged, which is great because it's forcing things like this. Now, this guy, he is what he is, but it's a controlled oppositional channel, and Pat is by far the worst, okay? So, like, Pat, he just gets on my nerves, and a lot of people like him, which is fine. But here, Pat McAfee here, extremely relevant guy and channel, and he's just the worst because what he does here is just a couple months ago, this man was saying the end of this game was rigged and the game is rigged. He was complaining, remember when Brady took the prop loss, he was saying how FanDuel's rigged, etc. Then he gets a cease and desist letter, and he said it was because he was using the NFL's logos. You can watch that video if you want, unless he took it down. And again, he did not, in my opinion, he did not take down, he did not, even in that video, do a great job explaining. All he really did was, he just said, oh yeah, Tom Brady took a kneel at the end of the game, and it cost me all this money, and I know it was scripted. And I was shocked because I thought I won. Which is stupid, because if you're playing a game, and it's like your team's up, and they might be in victory, they have the ball at the end, which they did. Pat should have known with 3 minutes left that he wasn't going to get that, because he should have known that Tom was going to take a kneel at some point. So Pat's just an actor, but he acted all upset. Like, he plays the role of the fans here, like he's with us. So now you can see he went from the NFL's rigged and Vegas is psychic to people are taking these quote theories and running with them. So Trevor screwed up. He was not supposed to use the word script. How do I know that? Because when Pat was going into this video, he essentially says, you can't say script, man. You can't say script. Even when he's saying that it was an innocent use of the word script. So Pat is cryptically telling us stuff, but this is why they have controlled oppo, because now people are going to come to Pat McAfee. He's going to tell you what you already know, but he's not going to tell you anything more. And that's why these are so effective, and that's why they do this so much. So you'll see Pat talking about this way more, and other controlled opposition. Probably some ex-athletes will come out doing it. Now, what's interesting is I love how it's made the mainstream. Now, the reason I find this very interesting is we were ripped down on Christmas, and we've bounced back obviously very strong, and we still are, decimating Vegas, okay? What's interesting is this video specifically with Pat McAfee, and again, I'm a very, very not as big-headed person by any means, but I have learned that people on YouTube watch your stuff. There's channels with hundreds of thousands of subscribers that are actively watching me and commenting on my stuff just to get a certain emotion out of me. So when these big channels are doing all that, I have no doubt that a channel like Pat McAfee is at least aware of channels like ours, what we were doing. Now, why do I bring it up? Because we put out this live video about Trevor Lawrence and how the Jags were going to come back. The score was 30-13, I think, or 30-16. It was 30-14. It was a 16-point game when we predicted it, and it happened. What I like about Pat here is, whether on purpose or accident, because he's trying to play and you can watch the video. I encourage you guys to watch these two videos. This second one seems like he just took our channel's motto, but he goes into exactly what we've been saying in detail. But what I found most interesting is he actually goes on to say how the reason it's set up is for entertainment and so Vegas can make some extra money. Now, it's interesting because no channel has gone into why it's rigged. I've watched a lot of them, and on Twitter, people have had theories. But it's weird because I don't know who else Pat could be referring to there. There's no other channel that I know of that actually on a daily basis goes into the Vegas aspect and the entertainment aspect. And Pat McAfee was the first person to really say this is why people think it's rigged. So who knows? We'll see what happens. But I think I got a little subtle shout out. And again, it's not about me. It's about the movement. If this shows that they're being forced to make this man talk about it, and why Pat? Because he's controversial. So they get a controlled opposition guy like him to talk about this. Why do you think he seamlessly transitioned to the WWE? It's because he can call fake things very easily. So it's just very interesting to me, and I do believe that as a result, we're going to see a lot more of this, where he's coming out. And I think they're going to use the Buffalo Bills game as a reason that, quote, it can't be rigged. I noticed, with Twitter bots, basically, people think that a bot's just like some automated thing. What happens is people make real accounts, multiple accounts. Oh, cool. My NFT's looking pretty good. All right, guys, that's good news. Maybe the NFT market's bouncing back. But no, all kidding aside, people will make multiple accounts, and they do it just so they can, make 50 comments, and you can actually buy these. You can buy, subscribers and things like that. So what's very interesting is all the top Twitter trending NFL rigged statements were literally the same. Oh, well, if it's rigged, the Bills would have won, because they already sold tickets for the game and the story everyone was talking about. So, for the first time ever, I genuinely believe the NFL went and did a swerve. I think they set up a perfect storybook with Damar Hamlin and the Bills, and they made it where this was one of the more boring, less entertaining games in a very long time. Why would they do that? Well, Pat just said it 6 days ago. Pat just said, well, they're doing it to make it entertaining, and so, Vegas can get paid out. Well, now Vegas still might have got paid out because of the Bengals, but here we have a football game that looked like a game from 30 years ago, where there wasn't ridiculous magnetic catches. There wasn't Josh Allen looking ridiculous. There wasn't the Damar Hamlin comeback. So all these things that people were, because again, I wouldn't be surprised if they actually changed the story on the fly, just because of how they treated this whole thing. Like I said, Damar Hamlin is tied to all of this so close. But I wanted to go into it because, like I said, it's not just one or two things. We have all these regular controlled oppositional channels. Now we got Pat McAfee going and playing damage control. And he's not going to be the only one. Now, I really advise you guys to watch his videos because he still gives away some good information. He still gives away how Vegas does it. This is back before he completely turned. Here he does admit that Trevor should not have used the word script. He kind of gets on him for using it. Now, why would he get on for using it if he meant it in a very nice and humble way? If he was saying script, like our game plan, then why is Pat saying you shouldn't say that? Right? There shouldn't, if this is an upstanding league, then people shouldn't confuse it anyway. So Pat, I don't know if he's giving us cryptic clues. I like to give people the benefit of the doubt, or if he's just complete controlled opposition. I think it's the second. But you could see that he puts his 27-0 comeback out, and it was just interesting timing. Like I said, I think these people, these channels, they know what other channels are saying, doing, and especially if Vegas is losing money. So we got shut down. Again, as far as our analytics and what I believe is going to have happened with our channel, I have underestimated everything every step of the way. By that I mean, again, these channels with 6 figures worth of subscribers, or 6 digits worth of subscribers, teaming up just to actively try and stop us. So if that's all happening, and YouTube is shutting us down because they see what we're profiting over time, I would not be surprised if Pat McAfee was just aware of ours and other channels. Let's not forget, again, they don't care that much if somebody's telling you what you already know, that the NFL is rigged. That's why McAfee's doing these things. But they do care if somebody can actually have a heads up ahead of time and do well. For example, we didn't hit the comeback on the Bills, but most people that watched the video hit anywhere from 8 to 10x on a comeback when we predicted our Jags live comeback. So they don't want that. The NFL doesn't want that. The Vegas doesn't want that. YouTube doesn't want that. And they know when people are doing well and people are making money. It's just an algorithm. So that's just my opinion. I am not surprised, at all. I would not be surprised if this is why this game was the way it was. Whether the Bills were going to win or lose, I know for a fact, if people weren't talking about Lawrence and crazy comebacks, this game would not have been so boring. You could say it was because it was in the snow, but Burrow looked pretty good. So again, I just think the Josh Allen comeback was what people were expecting, and they needed to. This is, in my opinion, the first example of an example game. By that I mean where they actually made a particular team win or lose to, quote, prove it's not rigged. So that's just what I believe. I would keep my eye on Pat McAfee, see what he's saying, as well as NFL Twitter, see how he's reacting to that. Because all McAfee's doing is what a lot of these controlled oppositional channels do. They look for the hottest topic, and then they cover that because it's going to get the highest search. They don't just go into their opinions. So he's going to cover the hot topics, which is great. The Super Bowl is going to be one. But I'm curious how Pat handles this. So that being said, let's do what we do best and move on into our picks. And tonight, nothing crazy. We have 7 games, and I'm going to play most of them for purposes of convenience because some of these are going to be leg 2s and leg 3s. We'll start right here. And I love Memphis. I think they want to have them up there at Denver. They just lost a game, so I could see them being faded. And Sacramento's at a point now where I don't think people are looking at Sacramento as a pretender. I am. But I don't think people are looking at them as a team that is like the Jazz or the Pacers or these other teams that are going to just miss, in my opinion, the playoffs. They've established the Kings as a good team. They're at home, and I think the Grizzlies need this win a lot more than the Kings. Again, the Grizzlies, they want to establish them as a top seed because nobody's going to bet the Grizzlies Nuggets otherwise. You put them as a top seed, people are going to bet Dallas because of Luka. People are going to bet Golden State and Phoenix because they're Golden State and Phoenix. So this is why, in my opinion, you got to get the Grizzlies a good record. Blazers, taking them all day to cover. I think they need to bounce back. Again, this was my dark horse playoff team, and I actually thought they'd even win a round or two in the playoffs. I liked them before the year. I still like them. The Blazers, they put a lot of money into this team. And outside of some weak defense they've showed, there's really nothing to show that, real or fake, that this team wouldn't make a run. So I think they make a little bit of a run. They already did at the beginning of the season. They are a very, very streaky team. That's their little narrative. So I like the Blazers here. I'm going to buy it down to 8, though. So I'll get a -8. And for this one, this will be a leg 3. All that means is for any one sequence that's on a leg 2 that you might not have got, that becomes leg 3. For example, Clippers did not cover Hawks. This was a couple days ago. Like I said, we play so many games. So Blazers cover Spurs. Okay? And this is literally all I do for every one of my plays. And this is why we're up about 70 units. I think it's about 60-something now. But still, it's because we're just playing the metrics. So there we got Blazers covering Spurs. As far as Kings, I like that one as a leg 2. So, bam. Spurs cover Nets. That was a loss. Here we're going to go Grizzlies cover Kings. And you can see that it's not anything complicated. It's just how we go about making sure we can get the best value. Essentially, again, the goal is to hit at a 33 to 50% clip and still profit. And, of course, we've done way better than 50%, but the 50% would actually be good enough. Then we get to the Hornets Jazz, and this one's an interesting one. Jazz can go to 25-25, which would be, interesting. But I'm going to go with the Hornets to cover for the reason, again, I think games like this are the games that you might just see the Jazz lose. They're going to beat teams like the Lakers and the Suns, and then they're going to lose, in my opinion, games like this, just because the public won't be on them, and we have 8 points to fall back on. And I don't think the Jazz are going to be a playoff team. For that to happen, they need to lose. Teams like the Thunder, Blazers, Wolves need to win. You're not putting the Jazz in the playoffs over those teams. So here I like the Hornets +8. That'll be a leg 1. Same reason I like the Timberwolves. I'll just take them for the cover. Sure, they could win, not cover, but I think they win decisively. And you can see Rockets are actually pretty bad against the spread, so pretty soon we could start taking them. But for now, I like the Wolves -5. That's going to be another leg 2. So, again, I just look for one that lost. Bam. Hornets didn't cover the Lakers a few days ago. So, for leg 2, we are going to go just because, again, it could happen, but I do think that the Hornets cover again. Now, in this game with the Wolves, you could buy it to 4.5, but I'll just leave it at the flat 5. I think it's going to be, if they don't cover the 5, the 4.5, I don't think it's going to make much of a difference. So I do like the Wolves here. And again, I just think it's a game that they need to win. And let me check the over-under. See if we play that 234. It's funny because I was going to say watch it be 232. They love putting it right around there. So this is going to be a leg 2. And again, it's just because narratives. I notice a lot of times after football, when you get the basketball Tuesday and Thursday, tonight's Monday, but there's no Monday night game, of course, they like to tell some stories. So I think the story is going to be the Wolves looking strong, the Blazers looking strong, the Grizz coming back. Hawks, Bulls. This will be a leg. Let me look at these spreads. Yeah, the Hawks not so great. Bulls all right too. This one could go either way. I think the Bulls need to win a little bit more, and I think people are going to be on the Hawks a little bit more. So I'll make this a leg 1, just 1 unit, and I'm going to take the Bulls to cover. Celtics Magic. I'm going with, in this one, I like the Celtics. I just think they cover. It'd be interesting because anytime you have a spread from between 7 and 10, it's usually goes one way or another. It's usually they barely cover by like a point or they cover by 30. Magic have been covering a few lately. We've been taking them and doing well with them. And now that I think the public might be on them, I like the Boston to cover the 8 points here. And might as well play every game, right? Bucks Pistons. I am going to take the Pistons to cover for one reason. 11 points is a lot, like I just said. But I also know that the Pistons are, if you look at their record, 12 and 36, 1-2-3, right? 6. And if with a win, they can go to 1-3. So they can go from 1-2 to 1-3. So the 1-2-3 thing I find interesting. I wouldn't be surprised that the spread moved to like 12 points. But between that, the fact that even without their stars, people are still going to take Milwaukee. Because no stars on Detroit is still worse than backup stars like Bobby Portis on the Bucks. That's how the public looks at it. So here I do like the Pistons to cover the 11. Again, with the possibility of maybe they win the game outright. So instead of making 2 different videos, I figured I would just hit my NBA real quick. So quick recap. Pistons cover. Celtics cover. Bulls cover. Wolves cover. Hornets cover. Blazers cover. Grizzlies cover. And again, I'm going to make the Blazers a leg 3. I'm going to make the Kings and the Rockets, or the Kings and the Wolves game a leg 2. It's where we have the Grizzlies. So the Grizzlies will be leg 2, them to cover the Kings, and the Wolves to cover the Rockets will also be a leg 2. Blazers cover Spurs, buying down to 8. That's leg 3. I literally have one college play, and it's because it's just the only one that sticks out here. Maryland covering NC Central. It's Maryland ES. I don't even know what the ES stands for. Probably like Eastern State or something weird, but you'll find it. Just find NC Central, and I'm fading them. I'm taking Maryland ES to cover. And as you know, what I do with that is I literally just wait until as close as I can to the closing line so I can match it up with ESPN. So here we can see, I'll scroll for a little bit. There's not a ton of games today. And here it is. It's 7.5. And so what I'm going to do is take Maryland to cover. And what I'm going to do is obviously take the 7.5, and I might buy it up to 8. So if this moves, around 536 and the spread moves to 8, 8.5, a lot of times people get clipped. So for these kind of metric games, I do like to, and you can see they're both good against the spread. It's just percentage-wise, NC is a lot better. So with these type of games, I always wait for the ESPN closing spread because that's the one that they go by. And this one's going to be a leg 3. I think NC Central, I've watched them a lot this year, and I think the public handle is going to be on them. They're one of the few teams I have because, again, they only got 3 losses against the spread. So they've looked good, and really the games they've won have been more decisive. So I will take here, fading NC Central. I'll take the University of Mass, Eastern Shore. And again, we're going to get the closing spread here as a leg 3, and I'm going to take it with +8. I'm going to buy a half. But make sure you at least get the ESPN closing spread. So those are all of our games. As I said, I thought what was more interesting was this. I wanted to go into this because they're going to be changing the narratives daily. So if we can get ahead of these narratives, then people will really start seeing why these goons are saying what they're saying and why suddenly they're switching up. So Catches Fire on live stream. I'm guessing they might have made a couple of nice bets or something. But yeah, so it'll be very interesting to see how he continues because, again, these Twitter comments aren't going anywhere. Our videos aren't going anywhere. People understanding that it's set up like we've been saying all year with the Niners. Again, we're not always going to be right, but as long as we're right for the most part, that is why these guys are talking about this. Because, trust me, Vegas, if they are not losing money from any particular outlet, they're not going to care. And again, that's the reason that these channels exist. So I really wanted to go into this. I thought it was interesting that everybody's, quote, proof of it not being scripted was the Bills they didn't come back, so DeMar, so it can't be scripted. It was almost like they set that up for that reason, that narrative, just because that was so many people's argument on Twitter. And I'm sure you've seen that, where you see 50 people make the exact same argument verbatim, and you just realize it's not the people's actual thought. They're just being told something. So I'm going to be watching this going forward because, again, McAfee is someone I do find funny, entertaining, and even though I think he's controlled opposition, like I said, he actually does give away some things where he goes and explains why we are saying it's rigged. No other channels are doing that because they don't want people to know. They just want you to know, hey, it's rigged, shut up, accept it, and watch. McAfee here is almost dropping some cryptic stuff, so I would definitely suggest watching his video on Trevor Lawrence and his video on the refs, and just his videos on it being scripted in general. Because I've had a lot of people tell me that they think he's a good guy, actually dropping, cryptic clues, which would be great. So we'll have to see what happens. But I just wanted your guys' opinion. I thought you'd find it interesting that now we got the great Pat McAfee talking about our movement and talking about how the reason people are doing this, the reason people know it's rigged, the reason is not just because it's fun. It's because Vegas makes way, way, way more money, which they couldn't really even explain away. They tried their best. And the entertainment, which nobody goes into. We're called National Sports Entertainment for a reason. It's not just a gimmick. Sports entertainment is a real thing, and they are literally referring to these as sports entertainment now. I mean, you scroll down, WWE is right next to the WNBA. They are telling us something, okay? Yes, I get it's alphabetical, but they are telling us something, guys. So when you see this, and fun fact, Vince McMahon actually demanded he be listed on ESPN, or he was going to sue the outlets because he was going to go as far as suing Disney because he called it false advertisement. He said, "You're calling these sports, and I'm not, and they're not. They're no different than me." So Vince has a very strong hold over these leagues. That's why they don't mess with him. Vince McMahon, I'm referring to. That's why they give the champs a championship belt every single year. That's why Pat McAfee seamlessly transitioned to WWE. And you can go on and go on. That's why he made the XFL. He's not happy with the NFL and these other leagues. Fun Vince McMahon story, just before I go. I think you guys will find it interesting. A couple of years ago, actually about 15 years ago, it was the Nuggets versus the Lakers. And it was the Nuggets Stadium, wherever the hell they play. Oracle, I forget the name of it. Mile High, whatever it is. So anyway, it was the Nuggets Stadium, and McMahon was booked to have a SmackDown. I think it was a SmackDown. No, it must have been Raw because it couldn't have been Friday. So yeah, it was Monday night. It was supposed to be a SmackDown or Raw, and it was a 5-on-5 match he had planned. And at the last minute, they told him, "Sorry, but we had to relocate the Lakers game. It's going to be Lakers at Denver. You have to find another venue." Well, he got so mad. He said, "I will find another venue," and basically show the fans what's going to happen anyway. And then what he did is he had his like the top 5 wrestlers dress up with Lakers jerseys, and they just cremated the 5 people dressed up in Nuggets jerseys. At the time, that specific game, I remember I found interesting because the Nuggets were something like a 9 to 10 point favorite. It was a pretty big upset. So Vince kind of cryptically predicted that one. You could watch the match. You'll see the Lakers just destroying the Nuggets in the wrestlers. This was after Vince got pissed off and said, you can't. How are you going to prioritize the NBA over us? We make more money essentially, and they had already agreed that he would have that venue. So Vince knows it's rigged. Wrestlers know it's rigged. That's why my very last video I went into reasons in wrestling comms that I believe. The fact that they have followed the Super Bowl the last 2 years, WrestleMania. They've been where the Super Bowl's been. These kind of things to me aren't a coincidence. That they're booking to be where the Super Bowl is. They know. So it goes so deep. But I wanted to show Pat McAfee why I believe he's controlled, why he's saying the things he is. The NFL basically forced him to leave WWE. They said, hey, either leave or you're not going to have a job when you come back. And on his way out, it was kind of funny. His last match was WrestleMania, and he got the shit kicked out of him by his 80-year-old man, Vince McMahon. And in that game, they were doing a lot of football comms where, again, they were in Dallas, so they were doing a lot of things where McMahon's punting the football, messing with the crowd, all sorts of things like that. So, again, wrestling knows. I think that's why we've done so well. It's WWE logic, and a billionaire like him is definitely going to know what these owners are up to when they're copying his formula, nonetheless. So those are all of our picks. Again, I just wanted to really go into McAfee because I like the guy, but just be careful. Just because someone's saying it's rigged, especially if they're doing it in a condescending type of way or in a passive-aggressive type of way, then there's a very good chance that they are controlled. So there's our picks for tonight. You can see we got 8 plays. We got 4 leg threes we got 3 leg twos and a leg 3. The leg 3 is going to be the Blazers. And then the Wolves is a leg 2. I'll go over it one more time. The Wolves is a leg 2, and the Grizzlies is a leg 2. So, and then the college play, where we're fading NC Central against the spread, that's also going to be a leg 3. So I just like to go over that because I know a lot of people want a tail, and I want to make sure they have the proper plays. So this one's a leg 3, along with the Blazers. And then again, Wolves, leg 2, along with the Grizzlies cover. So I think we have a good night. 1, 2, 3. We'll see if it's easy as 1, 2, 3. And yeah, I thought you guys would be very interested in McAfee's Sutton switch. I thought it was interesting myself. And I'm going to watch some of his videos now because I've only saw like 2 now in the last week, the 2 that I showed you guys here. I'm curious to see exactly what he's saying because he will give things away. The Pat's one problem, and the reason the NFL literally told him, you will never have a job for us, is because he's too unfiltered. So he tries to improv, and he'll say one little slip up and screw the whole thing up. And that's why he's doing YouTube instead of working for the NFL. It's because when he tries to improv, he did it with WWE a lot. He was good at it because WWE, again, they don't claim to be real. So a little slip up here or there isn't going to hurt you. But Pat slipping up and saying something that isn't in the narrative, which he's done several times, is probably the reason they don't have him as a talking head. You can't take that risk. So that's what I believe. I'm going to be watching Pat closely. Again, I'm going to be really doing the most in-depth series on the Super Bowl I can, because this year everyone is I see just opening their minds a little more as to what's going on, and I think it's going to be ridiculously rigged as far as the Niners. So I figure we get this out here ahead of time. Again, all these different commonalities adding up, and then it makes more sense for people when they start seeing, hey, for the new people, hey, might it be rigged? And they start looking into it after the Super Bowl because it's just so obvious. That's why I'll put out a lot of videos, but I'd much rather that and do in-depth ones in live time beforehand than drop a 2-minute video after the fact because, again, the whole goal is for us to profit, continue to profit, beat Vegas, and at the same time find the narratives, not just say, oh well, it's rigged, let's just keep watching it. No, we're going to continue doing what we're doing, And that's why we're up. Literally, I know it sounds like an exaggeration, 50 plus X since literally exactly a month ago. And you can watch the playlist verification of that. And that's the reason you got these Pats running around. Again, McAfee can't have channels out there that are making people money. They can leave these sports handicappers up. They can leave these breakdown goons up, the gematria guys, because they're not helping anybody. They're actually charging people. And they're, again, doing the same thing McAfee's doing, where they're pointing out obvious things and downplaying how scripted it actually is. So we're going to keep exposing it, and I think we have a great night today with basketball. Usually after football, we do really good with basketball, I noticed. And I think it's because they push the ESPN games really hard and the NBA TV games, and we just do well. So take care, everybody, and